Here are the fights we never got to see in YouTube boxing. Before we start, this isn't going to be a review on every single cancelled YouTube boxing event ever, because that would take way too long, and let's be honest, a lot of those fights are completely irrelevant and not needed to talk about at all. Like, does anyone care that Tanner Fox and Ryland Storms didn't fight? Exactly. First up on the chopping block, we got KSI vs Alex Wasabi. Now, this is one of the most famous YouTube boxing pullouts of all time. KSI vs Alex Wasabi was hyped up for months as KSI's boxing return after the Logan Paul fight in 2019.
Angles swinging, bro. Just destroying your will, slowly, ever so slowly. And then, before you know it, all you'll see is black.
You sound pretty confident.
And what happened? Well, Alex Wasabi pulled out because of a broken hand or concussion. It's kind of unclear on what actually happened. Many people think that Jake Paul paid Alex Wasabi to pull out. But regardless, Alex Wasabi was out. And then KSI stepped in to fight Ivan Nikolov instead. But then that got pulled as well because they found out Ivan was a neo-Nazi. So, yeah. Not great. But to be fair, that pullout did ensue Pineda to become an official Misfits member. So all wells, that ends well. Blueface also pulled out of a fight against FaZe Temper on Misfits 1, which led to FaZe Temper fighting Slim instead, and we all know how that went. Zanetti vs Jaden King and Swarms vs Christian Hamby did not go ahead on Misfits 002. Vitor Belfort pulled out of a fight against Hazeem Rockman Jr. because he got COVID the week of the fight, so he couldn't fight there. Along with Fangs and Barbie not fighting as well, that fight was cancelled, and judging by Fangs and Barbie's last fight, it's safe to say that Barbie would have absolutely killed Fangs without any trouble whatsoever. Speaking of Hazeem Rockman Jr. though, he did have a fight lined up with Jake Paul, and he would have absolutely murdered Jake Paul. But unfortunately that fight did not go ahead because there was a weight issue. Hazeem Rockman Jr. was basically forced to go down in weight by a lot in a very short amount of time, and he was 1 pound overweight, so Jake Paul made the fight not happen. Misfits Boxing 4 probably had the most notable pullouts in any YouTube boxing event ever. It had the most notorious and most well-known non-fights happen in the scene of YouTube boxing, and that's because you had a slew of pullouts from big fighters. KSI vs Dylan Dennis was set to go January 14th, 2023, but Dylan Dennis pulled out. Why? Because he really just didn't want to fight. That's literally why he didn't fight, because he just didn't want to. He thought, fuck it, I don't really fancy fighting, so he didn't. KSI had to pull FaZe Temper from the Luis Pineda fight back into the fight with him, and then KSI and FaZe Temper fought, and we know how that went. Joe Fournier was also supposed to fight a guy whose name I will not pronounce because I definitely won't get it right. And that was supposed to set up the next Misfits 7 fight against KSI versus Joe Fournier. But obviously the other guy, the Chalao Gao, whatever his name is, he pulled out of the fight due to some visa issues. So that fight couldn't go ahead either. And ladies and gentlemen, can we all get a moment of silence for every fight lost to the Misfits 008 card? Thank you. Astrid Wet vs Alexia Grace was set to happen in an in-gym boxing event. However, that fight was cancelled due to Astrid Wet getting body slammed through a table, WWE style. But speaking of Astrid Wet, let's talk Kingpin. Astrid Wet vs Elle Brooke was meant to happen on the first ever Kingpin event, renamed after the show's star event went so terrible. However, after all the shit talking, Astrid Wet pulled out because she actually just got too scared to fight. She made the excuse of, oh, the event was unprofessional, but realistically, she shit herself at the sight of Elle Brooke. On that same card, Luke Bennett and Ginty were meant to fight. However, this didn't go ahead because of the weight being a huge issue. Also, the fact that Luke Bennett was literally autistic and, go watch Luke Bennett versus Dean Allen. That is the fight Luke Bennett had that day. And then watch any of Ginty's fights. It would have been a fucking massacre. I feel bad for Luke Bennett a bit, but Jesus Christ. But let's end with one of the biggest cancelled fights of the last couple of years in YouTube boxing, King Kenny versus Nissan Gibb. This was set to happen on Kingpin 2's high-stakes tournaments, and it never happened. Why? Because Kingpin ran out of money. You see, this is the problem. Kingpin tried to overpay fighters. They tried to pay Gibb 7 figures. They tried to give millions of dollars out. But realistically, you can't do that in YouTube boxing, and the fight never happened. The third event for Kingpin never happened, and it's really a shame. But there you have it, guys. Those are some of the most notable cancelled fights in YouTube boxing history. Let me know in the comments if I missed any notable ones. And remember to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and most of you silly boys are not subscribed to the channel. So please don't be a silly boy. Please subscribe to the channel. I make really cool content for all the boys and girls around the world. Please subscribe, like the video. I love you. Mwah.